Canadian households have the highest debt levels in the G7.
Housing is too expensive, food is too expensive, childcare is too expensive.
It's outrageous. It's hardly able to make ends meet with the price of food.
The Salvation Army says they've never seen shelves this empty.
Nearly 2 million people across the country access food banks.
Food banks are becoming increasingly vital for families struggling to make ends meet.
Many people are at a breaking point, and so many people are suffering.
So my name is Josh Straheim. I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator at the Chilliwack Salvation Army. I started actually as the volunteer coordinator in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, which was a little insane. And I came into that job honestly not even wanting it, because I've grown up around the Salvation Army. I went to the church as a little kid growing up. My dad was actually on staff with the church and then ended up working here at the Care and Share Center for a long time. I think the most insane thing is that thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people drive by this building every single day and yet have no clue what's happening here. The job came up and I thought, sure, fine, what the heck, I'll just do it. And it didn't take long after I started and I realized, oh, maybe this is where I was meant to be all along, because it just became such a natural fit. It developed organically, where I went from doing volunteer coordination and scheduling to talking to people in the community, and then out of that I kind of went to my boss Warren and I said, I think I want to do this full time.
My name is Warren Schatz. I'm the Community Ministries Director here at the Salvation Army in Chilliwack. I have a bit of a back and forth journey. I like to change things up fairly often in my life, apparently. I graduated from college with a business degree, started off in banking and retail banking. But I also had a love for helping people and spiritual service, and so I ended up going back to school and then going into pastoral ministry. And I was in that for about 20 years. And then following that, I did a couple of odds and ends, kind of business-oriented things, and then came across this role, which all my life I've had these passions of being good at numbers and business and also loving to help people. And so this job, when I saw it come up, kind of allows me to mold both of those together into one position. And there was some uniqueness to the Salvation Army, and particularly in the sense that it tries to serve kind of the whole person in a holistic way, and to let them know that beyond these physical things, there's more out there, and there's someone who loves them and cares about them, and that they have worth. And the Salvation Army is able to do that and to bring that into what they do.
So I work out of what we call the Care and Share Center, which is kind of like the home base for all of our social services. That's the Pantry, that's the Food Bank Camper Program, that's the Soup Kitchen, our shelters, all of the family services apparatus operates out of this space. The Salvation Army has been in Chilliwack just about 100 years. 2024 will be 100 years. Coming into food recovery. This is part 1 of the Pantry program. So this is where we sort through 6,000 to 8,000 pounds of excess from the grocery stores. Everything from fruits and veggies, dairy, deli, baked goods, frozen, you name it. If it's in a grocery store, it's coming here. Like I said, about 6,000 to 8,000 pounds a day. So this is the Pantry. So in an hour's time, we will open these doors and people will come in and they will go grocery shopping and get whatever they need for the day. When we first opened this program, we were feeding about 50 to 60 people every single day. Now, 3 or 4 years later, we are serving over 300 people every single day. There's a huge difference between 50 people a day and 250 people a day. And this food is not going to be enough for them. And so what ends up happening is we end up closing early or heavily restricting what you can take. That's why we have signs here that say like 1 item only, because if you're feeding that many people, you can't just let people take as much as they want. Here's where we put all the fresh produce. We've got our baked goods, the frozen goes in the freezer here, and then the 2 refrigerators here. One is for deli, and the other is for dairy. They sign in at the front desk here. We take down what time they're arriving, their name, and how many people they're feeding. So it's very low barrier. And then they basically go shopping and get whatever they need for the day. Not all of it is amazing stuff, right? You look at some of these bananas and they're super brown and stuff like that, or stuff's molded or denty. Like, we try to pick out what we can, but the reality is not everything in here is pristine. Probably close to 10,000 people are being fed out of this program every month, which, when you think about Chilliwack's total population is just under 100,000 people, that means just over 10% of Chilliwack's entire population is being fed out of this little hangar. That's insane. Which is, like, again, no one knows about it. Thousands of people drive by this place every day and have no idea how important this is to a demographic of people in our community that are completely invisible because they don't look the part. The larger way to say it is that it's a zero waste food recovery grocery supplement program, which is a massive, unwieldy mouthful. Basically, we get donations from the local grocery stores of, like I said, fresh produce, dairy, deli, baked goods. About 6,000 to 8,000 pounds a day comes in. And then we have an awesome team that sorts through it. Everything that can't be used in the pantry, that's like not fit for human consumption, we actually give to local farmers to use as compost on their farms, hence zero waste. But everything that is good to use comes over to the pantry, which is the grocery supplement, free grocery store side of the whole operation. And people come in, they line up, they bring their grocery bags, and our volunteers let them go shopping and get whatever they need for the day. Now, it's a supplement because our supply goes up and down.
We're so reliant on our donors and we love them, but we don't know what's coming in every day or how much.
Local grocery stores are feeling the pinch as well. So what they're trying to do is reduce their inventory, tighten up their inventory, reduce their excess, and so that they reduce their costs. That impacts our supply, because now we were getting their excess, now we don't have as much of it. So instead of walking out with a nice big bag of food, you're walking out with a few things.
I think the hardest part of what we do is there are so many different variables going on at a time that it can make sometimes for a very, a little bit more of a chaotic situation than we would like, or just hard to control. I would think the worst of the worst is when we don't have the help to help somebody. Yeah. You know, when the worst of the worst is when, you know, a single mom shows up at 3:30 after school, but the pantry's closed because we ran out of food. That's the worst.
The people that have jobs and cars and apartments and lives, because the cost of living just can't quite make ends meet, they come in to get fresh fruits and veggies and baked goods and all kinds of different things to cook for their families. And if you think about someone who's experiencing homelessness, I mean, a lot of those things are really of no use to them because they're living on the street. They don't have the means to cook veggies and things like that. And so I'd say only 10% of the people that are visiting the pantry are of that demographic. The rest are these kind of low-income families, these single-parent families, recent immigrants. So many seniors are coming in. And these people are facing different problems and are a different type of person than we've been used to in our previous 100 years in Chilliwack.
Well, I've lived here in Chilliwack for about 7 years. I'm a senior, disabled senior. I struggle every month to pay my bills. I have family back in Winnipeg, so I have no one immediately here to help me. I have made some good friends here in Chilliwack, and Salvation Army has been a huge part of that. I've, met good friends in line here waiting for the pantry to open, and I struggle every month to pay my bills, so that's why I come to the Salvation Army. I need the pantry. I come 2-3 times a week. I need the pantry just to survive.
Yeah.
To make my meals and be able to actually have people come to my home and be able to share a meal with them. I wouldn't be able to do that. Well, I guess just the cost of everything, housing, food, trying to run a vehicle. It just has all become next to impossible. I mean, I think most people have a goal, when they get their checks or their paychecks that, they'd like to put a little bit away for an emergency, for a car breakdown, and that's just impossible to do. By the time you pay your bills, by the middle of the month, there's nothing left. Groceries have gone sky high. You go into a store and things have just ballooned. Sometimes twice as what you used to pay for them. And every time you go, it's gone up a little bit more. It's really been a struggle.
I think the Pantry program means a couple things. First of all, it means nutrition. Because food banks have always, or not always, but historically been focused on dry goods, stuff that they can store, stuff that they can carry. But it's left that kind of fresh nutrition component out, and I don't think it's fair that if you're struggling, you don't get to you have to eat Kraft Dinner and you can't have, kale or whatever you want. I think all nutrition options should be available.
And so this program is providing people access to things they might otherwise never have access to. Because you go to the grocery stores and it's prohibitively expensive to buy produce. I mean, we estimate that kind of one grocery bag full of food is worth probably about $75 to $100 at the grocery store. I mean, that's insane. And the pantry is an essential part of it. I mean, this morning the line out there was all the way along the building and around the corner. It's hard to watch, and it's hard to see the number of people coming here and being in need, and to look and go, you shouldn't have to come here. I know your story. I know that you've got a job. I know that you came here on your break or right at the end of your shift or after picking your kids up from school. Like, those are not the type of people who should be using the food bank, but they are. And I think the pantry just shines a light on that.
Volunteering was brought to me by my father. He came and supported me when I was in school, and he became a cheerleader for when I was an athlete. And so from his model, as I grew up and had children of my own, I volunteered immediately. When people said they wanted help, I was there. Dory, my wife, got involved here in doing the pantry, and one day she said, they're looking for a volunteer to do the Christmas kettles. I said, I can do that. No, volunteering is important to me. I think everybody at some stage needs to have that experience of giving back. Too many people take things for granted. And if you give something back, you realize what it takes, the effort, the work that's involved. And if you do it properly, you reap success. Working in the pantry is so important in that regard, because people come in, they can be down, they can be cold, they can be wet, they can be lonely, and we are a face for them. And in order to do that, if you can make their day a little brighter, put a smile on their face, have a little joke, even the 5 minutes they may be in there, they get out of the cold. There was one man just came in just now, and he says, I'm cold. I said, that's okay, just take your time, go around, just stay in the dry for a few minutes before you have to go out. He was in a situation, he asked if we had a fork, because where he was, he didn't have any utensils, and if he didn't have any utensils, he couldn't eat inside. So he had to eat outside. Can you imagine on a day like today with the pouring rain? But at least I found some spoons, ran out, gave it to him. At least he could now go back in and get shelter. I think that's what you get from it. Just being able to help somebody going out in a better position than when they came in.
And what's your favorite part of what you do?
Oh, seeing the people. My boys, as I call them, or my people. And that's why a few minutes ago I went out with, your crew director here, Ayush, because what I do in the morning, and I started it when we were in the other building, I would go out and I would say, good morning. Yeah, right, whatever. Good morning. Oh, morning, Dory. Come on, you can do it. And just kind of put a bit of a spark into their feelings, give them a bit of a lift. If I can say something or do something just to make their hearts feel good. So seeing the people. What does one gain? One gains humbleness. One gains respect. One gains compassion and empathy. It warms my heart and it makes me feel really good if you had children, if you were married, or if you were a senior like like I am and my husband, you're going to eat that day. You will get food, and you will also have that social contact with other humans. And it's hard. It is really hard for the clients. Not all of them, but some of them. You think of our seniors, for example, and well, I'm not going to ask for help. I raised myself, I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. I can do this. To come in for some of our clients, they feel shame, and I don't want them to ever feel that. Anyone is welcome, but I'm going to feed you, I'm going to feed your children, your husband, your mother, your grandfather, whatever. You will have a meal for the day. And it's not new, that it's all day old food, but we try and encourage people to think about, okay, you're going to get enough food for today or maybe for tomorrow. Think of what you're going to make for dinner. What are you going to serve the kids when they go to school? What's going to be in their lunches?
It fulfills a need. I like the idea that there are no questions asked of people. People come in, they know there's a routine. We try to educate them, what they can have and what they can't have, and the limitations, because we want to make sure that everybody gets something. And you realize that the problem that the cities and municipalities are facing today are not going away. Quite honestly, if you ask me, I don't think the situation is going to get any better. In fact, it's only going to deteriorate. So the more we can get for volunteers, the more people we can get involved, the better.
The cost of living crisis and inflation and cost of goods impacts the pantry in 3 big ways. The first is that demand skyrockets. Now, the pantry, which is literally like over there, we're feeding more like 4,000 families a month right now.
Food prices are just astronomical. Right? If you do your grocery shopping and you see things going up 20% on every item, I don't know. We often ask people in some of the grocery stores, how are they coping when they've got a family?
The other side of it is that our costs have increased. So if we were to try and go and purchase food to cover off the shortfall, we're going to be paying an exorbitant sum of money as well. And so it just creates a difficult situation. But at the end of the day, I think it is a Band-Aid, because I don't think, and maybe this is pessimistic, I don't think the problem's going anywhere. I think the problem's going to get worse before it gets better.
When we see people, it's so easy to pass a judgment on people, they must be this or they must be that or this must have happened. But learning their stories and understanding their journeys will really help us understand who they are and help us build a more empathetic community and one that's maybe more responsive and understanding.
I'm sick now. I can't work, and I big family. I have 9 children, but now in the family rest with me 7, and I not work now. Only my husband, and I go here. It's so much help me for food. We have a big, very big mortgage now, interest. Money don't have for our family. Every day I go to here, and maybe 90% food I take here, and because I no work this year, and my husband very difficult pay work, only 1%, and here, this is Salvation Army, very help us, and I am very happy, my family very happy.
There's a single parent with a couple of young children, very traumatic, abusive background. One of the children struck my heart because this child is an old soul, and yeah, I can't help but think, I know, of what it's going to be like for this child when he grows up. Others, a little old lady like myself who's been living in one type of accommodation, safe and clean and all that, but where this person lives, it's now been sold. There's no way she can afford $1,200 a month in rent. No way. And this should not be happening for our seniors.
One story that I remember is, and I can say her name because she's given me permission, it was of a single mom named Tanya. She's Indigenous and she's got 7 kids. The youngest, I believe, is now 4 and the oldest is 23, something like that. So just a huge spread. And they moved to Chilliwack about 5 years ago, and like trying to find a house to fit all these kids into. And she just said to me, she was like, I remember feeling like once we had paid for rent and the damage deposit and, you know, gas in my car, and there just was nothing left for food. And so she comes to the pantry a couple times a week. She gets her hamper once a month, and she says, like, this is what allows me to get by. And she was telling me all the stories about how excited her kids get when the food comes home, and for them, this is their grocery store. They can't afford to go to a normal grocery store, or not very much. Maybe they go and pick up a couple things they couldn't get here, but for the most part, she comes in, looks at what we have, takes what she can, and is creative. And I love, she said it, I love quoting this because I think it's so great. She says, I know how to make a little bit go a long ways. If you're talking about how can I make a difference in this community, find an organization that's doing work that you are passionate about. And then number 2, I want you to go and ask them, what do you actually need? What's going to actually help you? And the answer might be different than what you're expecting. The answer might be less exciting than what you're expecting. But that doesn't mean it's not super important and super valuable. And you need to kind of let go of yourself a little bit and be willing to say, how can I help?
I have been kind of blown away by how willing people in Chilliwack are to help. And we've been through a few, disasters since I've been here, floods and pandemic and fires and just a few. It was a rough couple of years there. But to watch people rally around that, and being willing to give up and being willing to sacrifice to help other people. And we see it kind of every day as people come into the Salvation Army who want to help and who donate to us and who help us do what we do. But this community really, from what I've seen, it just steps up when there's a need.
We need you. We need you to go and be our voices as well, but we need people to come here and volunteer. I get so much joy and happiness from being here because I'm seeing people that I've had a chance to get to know a little bit. They trust me enough to share some of their stories, and I respect that, and it humbles me because it's hard sometimes for people to be open and honest. But when I know I've got the pantry on my calendar for Wednesday and Friday morning, I just love it. We desperately need more volunteers, because when you volunteer, you get far more back than what you really, really do. And I've been volunteering for 40 years, as I said, in many different scenarios, but I think this by far is the best.
We have to keep talking. We have to communicate with as many people as we possibly can. We always say, if you can give 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes that somebody else doesn't have to give. But, any time is more than appreciated.
The Salvation Army they have been so good to me. Like I see these people on the street, you know, pushing their buggies. And I think, you know, how close am I to that? I would think the most important thing someone could do, and the easiest thing someone could do if they're financially able, is to just give. It's the easiest thing to do. Yeah. And that's, I would think back to the Salvation Army, you know, that's what they do. They give. If people were just to give and open their hearts and open their wallets to try and help people, and I don't mean it in a way that, you know, that I'm begging people. Yeah. But, you know, it's just the easiest thing to do if they're able, just to open their wallets and their hearts. Yeah. And just to give.
I don't think the Salvation Army is going anywhere. That's why kind of one of the things with this 100th anniversary is, you know, thank you for 100 years of hope, but we're also trying to set us up for the next 100 years. Because if it's not food security, it's going to be something else.